Welcome to the Eat This Book podcast. I'm Michael Whitworth. Each day we take a small piece of scripture and we sit with it. Not a quick snack that disappears before lunch, not a chore you check off of a list, but rather a meal meant to be savored. So pull up a chair. Let's eat. In the court of Louis XIV, the Palace of Versailles employed thousands. Gardeners tended the grounds, cooks fed the court, valets dressed the nobles, musicians played for banquets. Every one of them held a role of genuine dignity, but none of them confused their role with the king's. The servants existed to carry out the will of the sovereign, and the entire household orbited around the throne. If you visited Versailles, you might admire the servants' skill, even be awed by their precision, but you didn't bow to them. You bowed to the king. The writer of Hebrews has just finished a breathtaking chain of 7 Old Testament quotations, each one testifying to the Son's supremacy over the angels. Now he steps back from the evidence, turns to his audience, and asks one final question that reframes everything. Are they not all ministering spirits sent out to serve for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation? After 10 verses of building his case, psalms and prophecies, thrones and footstools, the weight of Israel's entire scripture marshaled to demonstrate the Son's superiority, the writer lands on a single sentence about the angels, and the sentence is not a demotion, it's a clarification. The angels are ministering spirits. The Greek is liturgika pneumata, and both words matter. Liturgika is the root from which we get liturgy. In the Greek Old Testament, it described the service of the Levitical priests in the tabernacle. Sacred work, holy work, work performed in God's presence. This is not menial labor. The angels are not heaven's janitors. They are liturgical servants, beings whose purpose is defined by worship and sacred service. But they are servants. The word sent out places them firmly in the category of the dispatched, the commissioned, the deployed. Angels don't originate action, they carry it. They are sent, and the one who sends them is the Son who sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high, the heir of all things, the King on the throne. The servants of Versailles reported to Louis. The angels report to the Son. Now watch where the writer aims this truth. The angels are sent to serve, but serve whom? You might expect sent out to serve God. That would make theological sense and fit the Old Testament picture neatly, but that's not what the text says. The angels are sent out, quote, for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation, end quote. For the sake of you. The beings who stand in God's presence, who worship the Son, who can be made into wind and flame, those beings are dispatched on your behalf. The writer of Hebrews is telling a community of pressured, wavering first-century Jewish believers that the servants of heaven's throne room are working for their good. The same angels who delivered the law at Sinai, who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel, who rolled the stone from the tomb, they are ministering spirits sent for the sake of ordinary people who are on their way to an inheritance. The word inherit is deliberate. It reaches back to verse 2, where the Son was appointed heir of all things, and it pulls the listener into the Son's own story. The Son inherits, and those who belong to the Son inherit too, not because they earned it, not because they climbed the ranks, but because the heir has included them. The angels serve the heirs. The household of heaven is organized around the throne, and the throne is occupied by a Son who shares his inheritance with his people. The structure of the entire chapter suddenly clicks into place. Verses 1 through 3 told you who the Son is. Verses 4 through 13 told you that the Son is greater than the angels, and now verse 14 tells you what the angels actually do. They serve the people who belong to the Son. The chapter has been moving from Christology to angelology to you. The whole argument narrows to a point, and the point is aimed at the listener. There's a profound reorientation happening here for the original audience. These were people who revered the angels. The angels had mediated the most sacred event in their history, the giving of the law at Sinai. To be told that those same angels now serve them would have been startling, almost offensive. It would be like telling the servants of Versailles that they now work for the guests, not just the king. That's exactly the writer's point. The new covenant hasn't diminished the angels, it has revealed their ultimate purpose. They were always meant to serve God's redemptive plan, and God's redemptive plan was always heading toward a people who would inherit salvation through the Son. The angels in Sinai weren't serving the law for the law's sake, they were serving the God who was building towards something the law could only foreshadow. Now that the Son has arrived, the full shape of the angels' mission becomes visible. They serve the heirs. And notice the tense, those who are to inherit salvation, not those who have inherited, not those who are inheriting. The inheritance is future. It's coming, but hasn't fully arrived. The first readers of Hebrews were living in the gap between a promise and a fulfillment, saved, but not yet fully delivered, suffering, but not yet vindicated, heirs, but not yet home. That gap is where you live too. It's where I live. And the writer wants us to know that in that gap, we are not unattended. The ministering spirits are active. The servants have been sent. The household of heaven is working on behalf of people who were still on the road, still waiting, still between the promise and the inheritance. Here's what I think we should savor from this passage. First, the angels are glorious, and they're servants. The writer has spent 10 verses establishing how magnificent these beings are, precisely so that the comparison with the Son would carry full weight. The conclusion isn't that the angels are unimportant. It's that their importance is defined by service, not status. The most powerful beings in the created order find their purpose in being sent. Second, the household is organized around the throne. Everything in Hebrews 1 orbits the Son. The angels worship him, serve him, and are dispatched by him. The prophets pointed to him. The scriptures testify to him, and the heirs inherit through him. If you lose sight of the Son, you lose the organizing center of everything. Third, you are the point of the dispatch. Not because you're the most important being in the universe, the Son holds that position unchallenged, but because the Son has chosen to share his inheritance with you. The servants of his court are sent in your direction. The angels serve for your sake. Let that land. If you feel alone in your struggle, if the fight you're in feels like a solo mission with no reinforcement, this verse says the servants of heaven's throne room have been sent for your sake. You can't see them. You may never feel their presence. But the text does not say sent out to be noticed. It says sent out to serve. Invisible service is still service. If you've been fascinated by angels, drawn to stories of angelic encounters, wondering about their ranks and names and wings, Hebrews gently redirects your attention. The angels are real, they're active, and they're magnificent. This chapter spent 13 verses pointing you to the Son, and 1 verse describing the angels' role. They serve. The fascination belongs elsewhere. If you're in the gap between promise and fulfillment, waiting for healing that hasn't come, restoration that's still distant, an inheritance you believe in but cannot touch, this verse speaks directly into that space. The tense is future, those who are to inherit. You're not behind schedule, you're in the gap where the ministering spirits do their work. The inheritance is coming. The servants are already moving. If you're a person who serves others, maybe a parent, a teacher, a caregiver, someone whose life is defined by what you give rather than what you receive, the angels are your mirror. The most exalted created beings in the universe find their identity in being sent. Service is not a lesser calling, it's the angels' calling. And if it's good enough for beings who stand in God's presence, it's good enough for you. Next time on Eat This Book, you don't have to reject the truth to lose it. You just have to drift. Join me at the beginning of Hebrews chapter 2 as the warning comes into focus and we ask a sobering question. What happens if we simply let go? Thanks for reading with me. Until next time, may the Word dwell in you richly.